What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to another show. Let's get it. I'm excited. I didn't even keep y'all waiting today. I said, you know what? I'm not going to do multiple minutes on the intro. We're going to get right to this thing because we got a great show lined up for us today. So I didn't even want to wait. Let's get this thumbnail up. All right, doing my sound checks over here, making sure we are good. All right, good. All right, so I got my sound check out the way. Got my sound check out the way. Let's get this right. All right, so let's get to it, everybody. Let's get to it. Welcome to your Saturday morning sports show with Off the Record D, where real sports lives. Each week, I break down the biggest stories in sports. You get honest takes fueled by logic, life experience, and time spent in team sports. No hot takes for clicks, just real perspective. I call it how I see it, whether it's breaking down a big game or calling out the media for how they spin a story. If you want sports talk with no agenda, you are in the right place. Let's go. All right, so y'all see the thumbnail. I will give y'all one update, and then we're gonna get right to it. So remember, Sunday mornings, 9 a.m., full video replay releases. Sunday mornings, 8 a.m., full audio replay releases. So if you are watching, right now you have the black and white thumbnail. The black and white thumbnail is audio only. That's 8 a.m. on Sundays. You have the full color thumbnail. That's video. That comes out 9 a.m. Sundays. Off the record D. Remember, it's OffThaRecordDee. Off the record D. The duh is THA. All right, so we got that out the way. So y'all see the title. Y'all see it on the screen. Jeff Teague, man, oh man, he afraid of LeBron. He made some comments. It's funny. Last week I said that their player-driven media would be the next one that would kind of start getting attacked. It didn't take long. Usually you say something and you like, man, this is going to age in a couple weeks. I'm going to be right. People are going to see what I was talking about. It didn't take long at all. I said this last week about Jeff Teague, about him joking, trolling, using those as things that he says when he says something crazy. That came right back at him less than a week later. We're going to get to that. Myles Garrett, Super Bowl aspirations. People are saying Myles Garrett is not the right messenger to be saying he wants Super Bowl aspirations. I disagree. We're going to take it to another team where the coach, not the coach, I'm sorry, where the front office is going to be asked if this team is capable of winning the Super Bowl. They shake it off. They laugh. They don't believe their team is capable of winning the Super Bowl. So do you want Myles Garrett saying he believes in the team and our goal is to win the Super Bowl? Or do you want the front office laughing, acknowledging that their team isn't capable of winning the Super Bowl this year? You choose. You let me know. Let me know. You pick. I want my guys on my team that I'm rooting for to always have the expectation and a goal to try to win a Super Bowl. So that's Myles Garrett. Kevin Stefanski, you see him. He on the hot seat. I think Kevin Stefanski on the hot seat if the Browns don't double their win totals. If they don't double their win totals from last year, if they don't at least get 6 wins, I think Kevin Stefanski is on the hot seat. Also, Andrew Berry. We are so used to seeing him look like a robot, speak like a robot. We got some real insight from him this week in his media availability. There's 2 specific things that we're going to break down that he spoke on. He spoke on Shedeur Sanders. He also spoke on Quinshon Judkins. So we're going to look at Andrew Berry, and this is the first time we're seeing a human. We're seeing a person who seems to be conscious and seems to be aware and concerned with how things are viewed, especially players that are attached to his name that he drafted or signed. So we got a real human there, y'all. He's not a robot. He talks so robotic so often, we think he's not human, but he's definitely human. After we get through Andrew Berry, we're going to get to Colin Cowherd. Colin Cowherd making news this week or last week. He's talking about, Jimmy Haslam is so close with an agent of Nick Saban. Nick Saban might come back. They're infatuated with Archie Manning. We're going to break down that story. The funny thing to me is this is the same Colin who 2 or 3 months ago was saying that the owner forced him to take Shedeur. So if I'm in love with Shedeur and I force you to take Shedeur, I'm also telling you next year that I'm going to force you to take Arch Manning. Some of these stories ain't adding up. You just ask that next question, you get to it. I think this is just Colin doing some hot takes for the summer, just seeing what he can get to stick, throwing some stuff at the wall. I told you Jeff Teague, backtracking on LeBron, we're going to get on that. He had some controversial comments, and he plays it off like, I was joking. I wasn't even serious. And then they did what all people do. When you have a podcast and you have a long-form podcast, you know what you tell people? You ain't watched the whole show. You ain't watch it. I mean, you ain't see the context of, what I was trying to say, so you took out of context what I was saying when I said it. Not going to work, sir. No, sir. We watched the show. We saw the context. I'm going to get it. I'm gonna bring it to y'all. I'm going to show y'all the context he said it, and I'm going to show y'all him backtracking. He's moonwalking like Michael Jackson. I ain't seen nothing like it since about 94. I ain't seen him moonwalk that good. Cam Newton versus Ryan Clark. We got Cam Newton versus Ryan Clark again making headlines. Cam Newton had a controversial take about Jalen Hurts not being a top 10 QB. We see all these people respond to Cam Newton taking personal shots at him. One thing, you want to know one thing that nobody did? Nobody said, this is my top 10 list, and I put Jalen Hurts number 1. They went on and said he's a good dude. They talk about his accolades. They talk about his Super Bowl MVP. But you know what none of them did? None of them made a top 10 list. So you know what we're going to do? I'm going to give y'all my top 10 QBs list today in the show. I'm going to stand on it. I'm going to stamp it. I'm going to put my name on it. That's what a lot of people are afraid to do. What people want to do is they want to criticize you for making a stance or taking a stance or saying that I believe this. And then what they never do is they never come back and say, I'm going to attack your argument with my argument. They just attack you. So I'm going to put my name. I said it last week. You got to stand on something. I'm standing on Shedeur. I was standing on Shedeur before the draft, standing with Shedeur after the draft, still standing with Shedeur now. I'm stamping it. I'm putting my name on it. Other people don't want to stamp it and put their name on it. And I have a sneaky suspicion why. All right, so that is open. That is the rundown. You know where to find everything. You know where to get everything. You know where the replays will be. Make sure you follow OffThaRecordDee on all platforms. You actually going to see me real soon on some platforms that you're going to be surprised that you're going to see me on. So that's just a little thing. Just let y'all know what we got coming in the future. But make sure you always search OffThaRecordDee. Make sure the does THA. Let's get it. Let's get into our first topic. So let me get this swapped out on the screen. We have, where we at, y'all? I got so many buttons and stuff over here. Look, this is me. I'm so hyped for the show, so energetic that I'm not pressing the right buttons. So that's okay. We're going to get to it. Let's see. We're going to get to it. Fail on my part. This is what we need. Okay. So like I stated in the open, I stated that actually, let me take that back. This is gonna get into coaching. So this week I was looking at Coach Kevin Stefanski. I was looking at his press conferences. He did 3 press conferences this week. I was looking at Andrew Berry's press conferences, and I was like, they're making this more difficult than it has to be. That was my first initial thought when I was looking at this faux or fake QB competition, which I never thought it was going to be a competition. If you notice, I never called it that. I knew that if nobody moved from where they originally started, I knew it wasn't a competition. So for it to be a competition, people have to do things that move them up and move them down. And I saw no movement in how they did things. So at that point, I said, it's not a competition. Funny thing is, this week, everybody else is finally coming to the thought that I said months ago. So it is what you going to do, man? What you going to do? You put your takes out there, you live with them. So I put it out there. But going back to the coaches, I was like, are they doing this? Are they making this hard? So then I started looking at other coaches and I started looking at other teams, because you want to make sure you're not overreacting. You want to make sure that you are not just out here on the island doing and saying crazy things. So I looked at the Giants, and Brian Daboll and the GM came out and did something. And instead of me telling you, I'm going to let them tell you in their own words. This is what they did. Let's get it. Let's get this video playing for y'all. First,
how important is the development of Jackson Dart, not just to the offense, but to the franchise in the years to come?
Yeah, I think it's important for all the players to develop. That's what this time of year is for. And then once we're ready to go against Washington, we put the best guys out there we see fit. Russell's had a really good spring. The other quarterbacks have as well. I like that room. I like the direction the room is headed. But for all young players, I know you asked about Jackson, but it's really every young player. Our goal is to develop those guys, and when they're called upon, be ready to go.
What did you see from Jackson in the spring?
He had a good spring. Again, he's a rookie.
All right, so in case you missed, I think you did miss it. I probably started a little bit after. Brian Daboll came out and said Russell Wilson is a starter. He said this prior to training camp. And I looked at this like, this is a great thing to do. You eliminate all the questions. If you look at the press conferences, the 3 press conferences that Coach Stefanski has done, so much of it is about the quarterback competition. So they're adding another layer to the QB competition that doesn't need to be there. And they're kind of, outsmarting themselves. And you don't have the luxury to do that when you are a team coming off a 3-1 season. You don't have the luxury of doing that. So they're adding a level of complexity that doesn't need to be there. They could easily say this is a 2-horse race. The rookies, we believe in their development. We believe they're getting better every day. This is between Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco. And then they should start to move the reps to Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco. As you see, our wide receiver room is thin. We got guys out. We had Shedeur throwing the ball to equipment managers to make sure he can get his throws up. At that point, this is a detriment. This is not helping anybody. Just go ahead and call it. It's going to be the 2 vets that are vying for the number one QB spot, which I thought all along. Call it and start giving those guys the reps. Start giving them. You got to build somebody up. I'm giving Kevin Stefanski 1 week from today. If by the time we don't get to next week's show, we don't have an announcement on who the starting QB is going to be, I'm already going to start. That's going to be one mark that I'm going to say, okay, that's a knock against Kevin Stefanski, because this is not something that you need to drag out. We don't need to be in the first – we don't need to be going to Carolina and then they're saying, well, we're still deciding on a starter when we're in joint practices. No. The team needs to know who to rally behind, who's going to be the leader, who's going to be the starter. And I like what Brian Daboll did here, saying, no questions, this is who it is. So I think that was a smart take. Now we're going to get to another situation in Tennessee.
Put on the field tomorrow.
Okay, so everybody's mad at Myles Garrett this week by him saying he wants to compete for a Super Bowl, and they're saying this is the right message, wrong messenger. Those people are foolish to me, and I'll tell you why they're foolish. People who want to dictate who can say what usually never made a decision on anything. And that's why they try their hardest to dictate things, because they've never been in control. People who've made decisions, you have to you have to take the information in, make the decision, and move forward from there. So it's just a sign to me. I know people who never had the weight or responsibility of making major decisions because they try to do the messenger versus the message. If you're not attacking the message, you're attacking the messenger, I know whatever you're going to say is flawed. Just like Ryan Clark, Dan Orlowski, Gilly the Kid, Asante Samuel, all of those people going at Cam Newton. It's the same way. So let's get to this. This is Tennessee Titans. So like I said, I was looking at things and I was thinking that we have stuff so bad when it comes to how the Browns are ran and what they're saying. And I said, let me make sure I'm not too crazy. Let me level set, because these are two teams who were in similar situation as the Browns last year. I believe we all had similar records. The Titans took Cam Ward over Wall, so they needed a QB. We had the number 2 pick, the Giants number 3. So I figured, let's see how are they speaking. This is a question they got from a reporter down in Tennessee. Let's go.
Can that team win the Super Bowl?
Listen, that's always the goal every year. Yeah. We also realize we have a lot of work to do on this roster.
So which answer do you want? Do you want Myles Garrett coming out saying, I want to compete for a Super Bowl? Or do you want, this is the front office, do you want the front office to laugh when they ask, are you a Super Bowl team? Y'all let me know. I think this is an L for them. I think that's an L. They were put in a bad position based on that question, and I don't think they handled it accordingly. But what you gonna do? So that's where I'm trying to look at things, and I'm trying to make sure I'm not the person that is overreacting to situation. So that's why I went outside of the Browns. I always do that. I did that around draft time. I went outside of the Browns and said, let me look at some things to make sure I'm just not going crazy. So I don't think I'm going crazy. I think the Browns are somewhere in between what those two teams are doing. Just like the draft said. They were the number one. They drafted number one overall, and I don't want my front office saying that. And then the Giants, who drafted number 3 overall, they made a decision early, and they're moving forward with the decision. And I like more of what the Giants doing. So I had to look around and say, man, am I going crazy? But yeah, you see it. That was not good.
He'll be out here today.
We're moving this thing down the field. So this is Kevin Stefanski. He did this press conference about an hour ago. So I listened to the press conference, and when I'm being critical of Kevin Stefanski, this is not about play calling. This is about, you got to start simple. You got to start simple and then build on something being simple. So I read this book. It's called Atomic Habits. It's a great book. And it talks about you adding something new to your routine every day until you get great at that. So I'll give you an example about me. When I'm setting up my show, I'm always looking to tweak things, seeing what I can get better from the last week's show. So whatever I add, it has to be something that I can use going forward that's not going to throw off my scheduled plan. So I recently got a Stream Deck, and it's a godsend. So when you hear like any type of when you hear any type of sounds that I have or sound effects that I'm playing, it's because I have the Streamlab. When you see me go, I can jump, I can put different things on the screen. That's because I have the Stream Deck that I'm using. So that's a way of me to get better every week. And that's what it preaches in Atomic Habits. You want to do something every week that you can sustain and get better and build upon it. Before you know it, when you do something 300 days in a row, it's part of your life. You don't even think about not doing it. It's just part of your routine. And I think this is the mistake that Kevin Stefanski is making, where at one instance you are putting in Kenny Pickett as a starter. Then you're having Joe Flacco go with the 1s. Then you're putting Shedeur with the 2s. Then you're putting Gabriel with the 3s. Then so you are not letting them get comfortable and build that rapport, that on-field rapport with the receivers and the offensive line, and see how they flow and see how they move. So basically, you are throwing a monkey wrench in what everybody does. So you have a quarterback like Dillon Gabriel. From the very beginning, I said this is not a knock on him. You have 3 right-handed quarterbacks and a left-handed quarterback. They're going to favor going in opposite directions. So Dillon Gabriel is going to always favor going to the left. It's going to be a more comfortable thing for him to do. The right-handed quarterback's going to be more comfortable going to the right. That's a level of complexity I don't think the Browns needed, but looking back at it, they are kind of fumbling what they're doing with this quarterback situation overall. So that's a whole different story in itself. But so that's one thing. Then Dillon Gabriel, you have to do rollouts and different things to make sure he can have passing lanes. You don't have to do that with Joe Flacco. You don't have to do that with Kenny Pickett. You don't have to do that as much with Shedeur. So you see how just by doing it so many different ways, you're not getting better at anything. So for me, I want to get better at one thing. Every show, one thing should be more clear. That's how Kevin Stefanski should be approaching this with the Browns. Every practice, we should be doing one thing better than we did the other day. Look at the practice, the second practice. Shedeur, he had him repping with the third string center. The third string center in the goal line drill kept botching snaps where 3 of Shedeur's 3 of his reps weren't able to be actually used because the center kept botching the snap. So when you are having these guys jumping around from this guy to this guy to this guy, you are adding extra levels of complexity that you don't need there. You always start off, when you learn math, you always start off with addition and subtraction. Nobody will start off going straight to division. And what they're doing is they're going straight to division one day, They're doing adding and subtracting another day. Then they're multiplying another day, and they don't get incrementally better in any of them because it's nothing is the same. So I think this is where Kevin Stefanski is kind of messing up. Also, just to say, Jordan Hicks, he did announce his retirement, 10 years in the league as a linebacker. He did face injuries, so I think people are kind of blaming it on the Browns, but he did face injuries last year. The last 2 seasons, I want to say, he did have some injuries. So you can't knock a guy. He just woke up one day and was like, why am I doing this? He's been doing this for 10 years. It's not there no more. I'd rather him, before the season even started, say that versus after the preseason he says that. Because now you still got all training camp to get the younger guys, acclimated and doing what they need to do. So that's Kevin Stefanski. Just not really much to play from him. As y'all know, Kevin Stefanski doesn't give you much. It's a combination. Kevin Stefanski doesn't want to say much, and then the beat writers and the reporters, they don't ask questions that make Kevin Stefanski elaborate. So they don't ask enough open-ended questions that are based on something he would answer. So they'll ask him questions like, what's the plan on next week? Are we going to see a different rotation of guys playing quarterback, taking snaps with the number ones? And he'll say, yes, it's a fluid thing. They could ask him, what are you seeing specifically out of the rookies that they have gotten better at from minicamp to now? You see how those 2 different questions, you're still getting information about the QBs, but you have to speak on something. One, he can just give you nothing. So it's just a combination of, those 2 things where it's just like, you're not getting nothing from that. So that's Kevin Stefanski. The first 2 press conferences, when I watched them, the first thing that came to my head was Frank Sinatra, I Did It My Way. I was looking at Stefanski and I was like, this year he feels like he's doing this his way, and he has a different swagger to himself, with how he's speaking, how he's saying things, and he does not look like a guy who's on the hot seat, which you have at worst a volatile owner in Jimmy Haslam who could sign you to an extension and then fire you. He's done it in the past. So I would never go into a situation with Jimmy Haslam as the owner where I would confidently think that I couldn't get fired. And that's kind of what I'm kind of seeing a little bit out of Stefanski. So let's move this thing right along. Let's get to Andrew Berry. So Andrew Berry
is involved in a league.
So I have 2 clips from Andrew Berry. And let me clean this up. Like I said in the open, to me, this is the first time we're really seeing Andrew Berry as a human being. We don't always see him as a human being. We see him a lot as a robot who is just giving whatever answers, and we see that a lot. So now we see him showing some emotion and kind of seeming kind of vulnerable. So in one of these takes, let's get to the first take. This is on the Quinshon Judkins situation. So let's go, Andrew Berry. What you got to say?
Legal situation, and particularly one that involves allegations of domestic violence. You lose a ton of sleep over it, and you lose a ton of sleep over it not just because of the seriousness of the allegations, but also because of the amount of time and energy you spend really vetting any person who comes into your organization. And then probably for us in the past 2 years in particular, the amount of time and resources we spent on the education part of it, with our not just with our players but with our whole organization. When this happens with a player, obviously these incidents, they become very, very highly public, and our view is our primary responsibility, our initial responsibility as an organization, is to gather as much information, and particularly quality information, as possible. Rarely, even though it's a highly public incident, rarely does all the information.
All right, so we're gonna pause Andrew Berry right here. So that was the first clip. So the reason why I say he's showing that he's a human and not a robot is because you heard him there say, this is something he's losing sleep over. We've never heard him use that type of language. he is very chat GBT-ish when he's talking to reporters in press conferences, you know, kind of dance around subjects in an eloquent way, gives you extra words that you don't need. So I thought that kind of made my ears perk up, like, oh, okay, he might be feeling a little bit of pressure, because this is kind of the first time where he has a full show. And a lot, let me make sure I word this right. In the past, I think that Jimmy Haslam has overpowered Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry in decisions. To me, it seems like when they were going to lose out on Deshaun and he told the Browns no, it seems like Jimmy Haslam was the one who said, nope, we're going to offer him the best contract and we're going to do what we got to take to get him. And that seems like something that only an owner can do. They came out and said it was a swing and miss. And then you see Jimmy Haslam at Deshaun's wedding. So it doesn't seem like it's any bad blood there. But that seems like they might have a closer or better relationship than we know. Now you have Andrew Berry has all his draft picks. He's going through the draft, making the decisions. You see Kevin Stefanski have his confidence leaning in. Now the pressure's on you because you can't go and blame anybody else because the owner just sat back and was hands off. That's when you feel the pressure. See, that's when you start to see who made the decisions. So a lot of people, they want to put things on the owner. The owner said do this, the owner said do that. And if you've been a fan of the Browns, if you've been following the Browns closely for the last 5-6 years, I've been watching the Browns my whole life. But for the last 5-6 years since they've had Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski here, you can tell they were kind of handicapped. And you saw all that boil over last season. You saw Kevin Stefanski never want to give up play calling, suddenly give up play calling. You saw him finally go outside of his scheme and hire an offensive coordinator. We let our offensive line coach go, who's one of the best in the league, to go be on his son's coaching staff. I understand that. We hired a up-and-coming offensive line coach who seemed like he couldn't get the job done. Luckily, we had Mike Vrabel, and Mike Vrabel ended up coaching the offensive line because they were just not good. Then they had Jameis. I still remember the point where Kevin Stefanski seemed like he got so mad at Jameis on the sideline that he said, I'm not going to call plays for him. So everything was out of their hands. That's why I said Kevin Stefanski reminds me of that Frank Sinatra song, My Way, because there's a line in there where he's saying, just going through the ups and downs and the good and the bad. If nothing else, if I'm going to lose this thing, I'm going to do it my way. And that's how Kevin Stefanski is. And the pressure is not getting to Stefanski, but it seems like the pressure is getting to Andrew Berry because now people are starting to stack up how you've made decisions in the past and what they turned out to. So it doesn't look good that your second round pick has something off the field. Devin Bush has something off the field. The whole Deshaun Watson situation is tied to you. So he feeling the pressure. But that's enough about that part of it. This is the second part of it that I think I'm viewing this 100% differently than everybody I've seen speak on it so far. So this is going to be Andrew Berry speaking on Shedeur Sanders' situation.
Not smart. Just not smart. And it's something that we've addressed with him. He understands the implications. He understands the consequences. And I think the thing is, like, it's not just about yourself, right? It's not just about, having a joyride. It's not just about, driving a car really fast, but it's about the fact that you can endanger other people. It's about the fact that if a deer or someone, cuts out in front of you, like your reaction time, it's just dangerous. And it's not something that we want our guys to be doing. It's not something that they should be doing. And the number one reason is because we don't want some type of catastrophic accident. Like, right, we saw that, 2 years ago in, Dallas or Houston with a player. And in that incident, everybody was lucky to walk away.
Okay. So a lot of people were saying this proves that Shedeur was a pick by the owner. I think this goes directly against that. and I'll tell you a couple reasons why. I look at this. I go back to the phone call that Andrew Berry made when he drafted Shedeur, and he's like, "You're gonna come in here. You're gonna work hard. Nothing's gonna be given to you." And everybody was like, "Oh, they don't like how he was saying that." I think Andrew Berry was tipping his hand when he made that statement. I think that was proven that he was the one who made the pick for Shedeur, because he was putting the pressure on Shedeur like, we can't mess this up. You say that to somebody who you are responsible for. You don't say that to somebody who you're not responsible for. So that was the first thing I noticed. And I was like, I think this is Andrew Berry. Also, we see he's human. He up thinking. Remember during the draft, I said Andrew Berry had to sleep on the fact that they took Dillon Gabriel so early. Earlier than other teams had him written in, and everybody projected him as a backup in the NFL, and they took him that early. And I was like, Andrew Berry had to sleep on that. He had to think about it. Another thing, when you're responsible for a person, you draft this person, you don't want anybody to say you're giving him any special treatment. It's just like when a coach is coaching his son. A good coach, when they coach their son, they coach their son harder than anybody else on the team, because they don't want anybody on the team to be able to say, you give your son special treatment. That's what I see Andrew Berry doing with Shedeur. I'm not going to compare it to the Quinshon Judkins thing, because those are two totally different situations. There's nothing similar about them. But I think this is him coming out being firm on Shedeur, because his name is on the line for Shedeur. He's attached to Shedeur. And that's the other side that nobody's saying. People were saying, oh man, he's looking at it like the owner picked Shedeur and it's all on the owner. Okay, let's go with the owner picked Shedeur. What we know now is the owner picked Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, they got up there every week and kept telling us Deshaun Watson was the best option at quarterback, when everybody saw he was not the best option. We saw the owner say a homeless man told him to pick Johnny Manziel. They jumped back in the first round to take Johnny Manziel. All those guys have forced opportunities. Deshaun Watson should not have been a starter to start the season last year, coming back from an injury and pressing. And his confidence wasn't there. He shouldn't have been a starter. They should have given him time to work his way back in. What seems more like an owner pick? Deshaun Watson keep getting sent out onto the field when everybody saw that he wasn't fully right? Upstairs, it was mental. To me, I physically, you can see he can still move around. That wasn't the issue. To me, Deshaun Watson was all in his head with how he was over analyzing every situation. To me, he was having analysis paralysis, where when there's too many options, you can't make a decision, you make no decision. And he was doing that a lot when he wouldn't throw the ball. He wouldn't let the ball go. And then it got all, he couldn't see it the same anymore. That looks more like the owner saying you have to play him. Johnny Manziel, they gave him an iPad. The iPad tracks how often you go in there and study plays. His was at 0. He still became the starter in the season with no studying. That sounds like something that comes from the owner. Let's bring this forward. If Shedeur Sanders was a pick by the owner, and we've seen how the owner uses his power to make sure people that he has ties to get on the field, wouldn't Shedeur Sanders be getting first team reps this whole time? Wouldn't Shedeur Sanders be getting more reps with the twos? Wouldn't he be getting more opportunities to showcase himself? So this is something that you gotta think about it. You gotta look at it. So it's funny because now that I'm saying that, I also got my X account up here, and it looked like Shedeur got first team reps ahead of Dillon Gabriel today. So we're gonna add that into the show, and we're gonna break that down. So this is where we do it live. But look at how I just broke that down. If the owner is meddling and he's forcing his hand, and he's forced it with people who are not prepared, with seemingly everything coming out of campus, Shedeur is prepared and he's studying and he's putting in the extra work. If it was up to the owner, what if the owner say, no, you can't bury him on the depth chart? We've seen the owner do this before. This is where I say people have a history of and a way that they do things. The owner has shown he will meddle and push and make sure his guys play. If that's the same owner, there's no way they're burying Shedeur on the depth chart. So I know I said it a couple times, but I really want y'all to think about that. I want y'all to look at it and say, does this make sense? Does this seem like the owner is forcing Shedeur on the Browns if Shedeur is not getting, he's not even getting a shot to compete. So if going into next week, if we don't see Shedeur getting first team reps and all this stuff, I don't want to hear it was the owner, because the owner would easily force his hand, especially with somebody who is looking like they're getting better every day. Y'all tell me. What y'all think? I'm going to leave that one on y'all. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Before we get into this next subject, we got some clips we're going to go into. We're going to do a little bit more with the Browns. But if you're watching me on YouTube and you're not on Twitch, 94% of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed. I need y'all to subscribe. I don't even need 100% of the 94%, but if 25% of the people who watch my videos subscribe, we'll be doing some things. We'll get this passed out to more people. We'll get highlighted. More people will be able to see this. So make sure y'all tap in. If you watching me, I'm doing 2 to 2.5 hour live streams, and you watching them and you saying, you know what? I ain't saying he the brightest of the bunch, but he ain't dumb either. Check your boy out, man. Hit that subscribe button. Check me out. All right, so we're going to do something real quick. Let me get it pulled up here. We're going to jump into a quick read for y'all. So I am a Fanatics partner, so let's get to it. Level up your fan gear with Fanatics. From jerseys to hats, they got officially licensed merch for every team in every sport. Don't miss out. Gear up today and rep your team like a pro. Link is in the description. When using this link, we'll get a percentage of each sale with no additional cost to you. Thank you for your help. All right, so quick fan read, ad read there. I don't need this incognito tab up. I need this. There we go. All right, so just as I was saying, let me get it here. Shedeur got team reps before Dillon Gabriel. I was going to get into some of his press conference and stuff like that, but let's get this thing. We're going to get this going now. Looks like Shedeur threw a touchdown pass in the back of the end zone to Deontay Johnson. So let's see. That was one pass. It's also he got this is courtesy of G. Bush. Shout out to that first one was courtesy of Daniel Wousier. Shout out to Daniel Wousier. This one is courtesy of G. Bush. G. Bush is out at camp. This is Shedeur Sanders gets team reps before Dillon Gabriel today. Has a 32-yard touchdown pass. Looks like Shedeur got 2 TDs on the board. Oh man, y'all can't see it. Let's move this up here. Let's do this. I don't want this. I got some stuff blocking y'all vision of how this looks. There we go. All right, my bad. Thanks for staying with me. Let's get this play back. Nice pass on the money for a touchdown for Shedeur. So we're going to be watching ESPN Cleveland. Y'all putting the stat checkers out. Hey, we got film already of 2 touchdowns by Shedeur. I don't want to hear hear nothing crazy or see nothing. Oh, he didn't do it and all this stuff, because we got him up there. They showing him. Let's see what else I want to get to here. All right, so this is all right. I gotta get my life together here. This is Shedeur the other day being asked about not getting a chance to start. I believe that's his question. Let's play it.
I don't think nobody in this organization is here if they're not trying to win. Honestly, I think, they're trying to win who gives out the best water and Gatorades out here. So it's definitely a competition in everything in life. It's so many cameras out here. It's definitely competition with content, obviously, too. So I think everything in life boils down to competition.
Shout out to Shedeur for that answer. I hope y'all are seeing that the tide is turning with the Cleveland media, as I told y'all it would. If you notice, now the Cleveland media, they saw Shedeur Sanders delay his media availability so Jerome Baker could finish up his media availability. And then you see Mary Kay saying, oh, that's such a cool thing. All of them learned the word cool at the same time. It's funny. You heard Tony Grossi saying, oh, it was a cool thing that he did. I'm like, dang, these some old people, man. But nobody age shaming. I'm old too. Y'all see the grays. They're now starting to see the same Shedeur that people saw from the very beginning because people actually watch Shedeur. And I always said they're just going to keep watching him and watching him and watching him, and then they're going to realize that we like him way more than we think, and we don't know why we didn't like him at first. That's what people are starting to see. And it's happening real time. It's happening real time with the Cleveland media. We saw, what did the Cleveland media say about Shedeur a month ago? Were they looking at him like this? Were they speaking about him this way? Nope. So he's winning them over with just by being himself because they didn't do the proper research and due diligence on him prior to the draft. So he's proving them wrong. I got another one I want to show here. Here we go. Let me get this volume for y'all.
I would say just learning. Every day, of course, I'm learning different things because I know the opportunity will come. And whenever it comes, I want to be able to know the ins and outs and know the full everything. So I don't want to really make too many mistakes when it's my time. I would say just learning. Every day.
I'm going to say this right now. When Shedeur gets the opportunity, it's going to be no moving off Shedeur. And at first, I was thinking this a couple weeks ago, and I was like, man, what would be the reason why Shedeur would begin a slow walk to get his opportunity? And one of the things I thought about was they're not going to be able to move off of him once he actually gets his shot. But then I thought, how crazy would it look if you took Dillon Gabriel before Shedeur, and then immediately, I'm not saying fans, I'm not saying me, immediately you see, dang, he's way better than one. One is way better than the other. The one you took first is not better than the one you took second. You know how crazy you're going to look to people, especially if, going back to what I was saying earlier, Jimmy Haslam was hands off on this draft and gave them full autonomy to do what they wanted to do, and then you draft two quarterbacks, and then the second one you draft is the one that ends up outperforming the first one, and then right away people see it, they're going to question your decision making. So it's a lot of things at play why Andrew Berry is changing his tune. That's at play. That's on Andrew Berry. So if Dillon Gabriel gets out there, he gets the first shot, which it seems like for whatever reason they're trying their best to give him the first shot. Dillon Gabriel goes out there, I would say around preseason, and he doesn't look as good as Shedeur. And then Shedeur looks better in the preseason. And then you move him up because it's from gameplay. But if during practice he already looks better than him, you know how crazy that's going to look? Because now they're going to say, why didn't you use that third-round pick on somebody who can help the team make the team better? Instead of being indecisive with the quarterback decision and saying, oh, it's so much value that we traded back up to get Shedeur. It don't make sense. So I think that's part of the reason why they got to slow walk him, because he can't go out there, make plays, and then you rein it back in because of his following, because of how I think he's going to perform. So I think they're slow walking it, because then it just doesn't. A lot of people say, oh, you hit on Shedeur getting him late, but then people in the building are going to say, why did we ever take the other quarterback first? And that's going to be a negative on them. So some of the reasons why I think they might be slow walking them. I don't think they're intentionally sabotaging them. I think they're just taking the process real slow. So this is what I was saying about Shedeur having to throw to equipment people because they just didn't have enough receivers. And this is where I say they're doing this the hardest way possible.
It doesn't really faze me. You gotta understand, we went came all the way from HBCU to Power 5, and then now we're here. So at this point, if you look around, there's nothing, that's a challenge, I'd say.
Just good response after good response, super positive, even when stuff wasn't looking as well. I don't know if I saved it here, but I think Shedeur is starting to recognize the type of questions that Mary Kay is going to ask him, because when she started to ask the question, he said, speeding tickets, right? He already knew where she was going. She couldn't even fake it like she was going somewhere else. She was going right to the speeding tickets, so he kind of called her out about that. One thing, we got some conflicting reports. So they were talking to the Browns quarterback coach, Bill Musgrave, and he was saying after week 1, he doesn't see any major changes to the quarterback situation. Nothing earth-shattering. It's like that's conflicting based on what Kevin Stefanski saying, because Kevin Stefanski saying that we're going to look at everything on Sunday and everything is in pencil and determine if we need to change the order. So they got to, it has to be one band, one sound. You know, it shouldn't be the head coach is saying we're going to look at things and they could potentially change. The quarterback coach saying nothing's really going to change. It's going to be what it is. Hey, you already off key. So y'all got to get on the same page with that. Let's go back. Let me see if there's any more updates from Browns camp. All right, so I'm just reading. My bad, y'all. I should have put something on for y'all. So it looks like so far I'm not seeing that Joe Flacco was getting any reps. It's looking, it's not looking like Joe Flacco was getting any reps. It's looking like most of the reps went to Pickett, Shedeur, and Gabriel. And it looks like Pickett had a touchdown. It could have potentially been a sack based on how long it took. I'm not seeing anywhere saying that Gabriel had any touchdowns, but here is the Pickett touchdown. This is not against the ones, because you see Denzel Ward right in the back there. They only worded it and said that Kenny Pickett was with the backups. So all right, so those are our updates from camp. We got through those. Let's move this thing forward. Let's get it going along. So now we have, let me take this down, get this up for y'all. We have Colin Cowherd. So I want to make sure I have no sounds playing. All right, so we good. We got Colin Cowherd. He came up with this theory of Nick Saban left the door open to coming back to the NFL, and he could potentially coach the Browns if the Browns are able to land Arch Manning. First off, the Arch Manning hype, I'm not saying he's whack. I'm not saying he's good. I'm saying we don't know what he is. All this hype is off his name because he hasn't proven nothing. I want to wait and see. We're going to see right away. They start the season August 30th against Ohio State. Noon. It's at noon Eastern time. So once we get to the big college games, my live schedule is going to change. So I'm debating if for that game I want to try to get away so I can play the sound for y'all. So if you're out and about, you can listen in to the sound of that game. And then after that game, we could do a recap of what we saw, what broke down. So just be on the lookout. Make sure you subscribe so you get the updates on what we'll be doing for Saturdays for college football. But we are going to be watching some of those marquee matchups, or at least listening to them together, because I can't play the video on YouTube. So we'll be breaking that down live. We'll get to see what he really is right away. Because you know Texas is going to have athletes. Texas is going to have talent. They always send guys to the pros. So it's not like he's going to be on a team without talent. So we're going to see what he is. But that's the first thing about Arch Manning. Second thing, we're at a place where it's you're either an older coach in your 70s and people 60s and 70s and people are going at you, or you're a coach in your 30s, and there's like kind of no middle ground for coaches. I don't want a coach and a young quarterback who's 70 plus years old, because it's just a limited window of how long you're gonna have that coach. So I would not marry a rookie quarterback and an older coach to that age. Just me. Another thing, Nick Saban's going to want full control of wherever he goes. Do you want to give your whole organization to Nick Saban? I don't know about that. Then Colin is saying that he's talking about the ties that Jimmy Haslam has with Tennessee and Peyton Manning and all these things. And to me, this is Colin just saying something random, seeing if it sticks. This is not him giving any new information. Everything he said in this thing where he speaks on it, he could have said this prior to the draft. He could have said this actually at any time. But if this is the owner's plan, like I said, some of these situations, they kind of don't match. Because if the owner is doing everything for that combo of Arch Manning and Nick Saban, why would he force them to draft Shedeur this year if he believed in Shedeur? How's it going to be both? How are you forcing them to draft Shedeur, and you also want them to blow everything up and be bad so you can get Arch Manning next year? So these stories that people are putting out, once you ask one more question, it starts to defeat their narratives that they're trying to put together. And that's how I see it. I think this is Colin trying to throw some stuff at the wall, hoping to stick. Another thing Colin was talking about, Joe Burrow is just Matthew Stafford in Detroit, which doesn't make sense. Matthew Stafford in Detroit didn't really have any playoff success. Joe Burrow's already went to a Super Bowl. He's like, he just stands stuff. He's also talking about, should LeBron have never left Miami? So to me, Colin Cowherd, this is a dry part. It's right before we get football back in a couple, like real football in a couple weeks. Because that Hall of Fame game, man, I'm not counting that as real football. So I think guys are just saying clickbait things and just seeing what they can get people to talk about when they're not on their show. That's how I view the whole thing that Colin Cowherd put out. It's just he doesn't have anything concrete that would suggest that plan is being put together. So that's how I view that situation with Colin Cowherd. I didn't play the sound. Fox is really funky with the sound. They will give you a copyright strike. So I didn't play the sound, but just gave y'all just a breakdown of how I saw it going, and I just don't see it. And he's just doing it. He's doing it for reactions. He's doing it for clicks. So they do it all for clicks. That's what I think they're doing. So that is Colin Cowherd. Let me do one more check. Let me do one more check and see if we need anything else or we heard any other news. So hold on with me. Be right back, y'all. All right, so we back. Thank y'all for holding out, staying with me. Just wanted to get any new information and see if it was any more updates we got. So the last updates we got from Daniel Woussier is they're doing something called the opportunity period, and it's a chance for young players and backups to get some more competitive reps. So Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur are both running low red zone work right now. So the young guys are definitely getting some additional work after practice, which I think is a great thing, especially when they'll be off tomorrow. And then also G. Bush is at camp. So this is what G. Bush had to say. Pickett, 2 nice TDs on the goal line at the end of the period. More mobile than he looks. Browns will definitely be running some read option and rolling the pocket with him under center. He's the QB that seems to like to extend plays the most out of the 4 QBs. So I'm taking – it's a couple people. I like Daniel Awuzie. I like G. Bush. Those Zach Jackson – I'm not going for the Tony Grossies, the Mary Kays. I'm not going for anything they report out of camp. I even like Cam Justice. I'll even look at some of what she reports out of camp. But anybody else, I'm not looking at what they talk about out of camp. So that is that. Those are those updates. All right, so moving this thing right along. So we're gonna go to the NBA for a little while. So last week I was telling y'all that athlete-driven media is going to be the next one that gets attacked. And I was saying that because what I started to notice was a lot of the athlete-driven media was guys who they didn't seem like they were doing a lot of studying and a lot of research, and they were just getting up there, going live, and they were just kind of winging it because they have experience. And you can kind of see that the research wasn't there. Just misquoting things frequently. So it's like, it's okay if you make mistakes. Everybody gonna make mistakes. Like, I'm a one-man band over here. I'm doing this all on my own. So I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm not knocking anybody for their mistakes. But if you constantly and continuously make mistakes, then I gotta look at that situation differently. And I noticed that from athlete-driven media. And then instead of just saying, hey, I messed that up, I saw more so athlete-driven media saying I was trolling, I was playing, I was joking. Now, the legacy media, the ESPNs, the Fox Sports, if they get something wrong, they just will never speak on it again. They'll act like it didn't happen. But I saw the athlete-driven media trying to speak on it and trying to cop a plea, basically. So this is Jeff Teague, which turned into a very controversial take. And he started tap dancing. He started moonwalking like Michael Jackson in his prime. So let's get it. This is Jeff Teague.
Because this Cavs Bron had a 3. Man, y'all crazy.
That might be the best Bron we ever seen. I ain't gonna lie.
He was on steroids, bro. He had to sit out. He was on steroids for real.
Nah, give me
like legit was on steroids, bro. I'm allegedly, but like he had to sit out. Bro, y'all remember when they told him like they
there goes the Clutch Sports allegations?
Y'all remember that though?
Nah,
well, they was like he got everybody. They started testing for HGH, and they was like, yo, and he had to sit out. Like he said his back was hurt, and he sat out for like 3 weeks, and he came back skinny. This is just I was in the league. I remember. And he came back in. He was crazy though.
Nah,
bro.
that might have been the best Bron, bro. At Miami,
Bro,
I think so. Crazy, bro.
I think it was right.
Hey, put that
Bro,
in the chat, please.
Bro, he was a real machine.
All right, so let's get back to the rankings.
All right, so we just played that whole thing through. Y'all got to hear what Jeff Teague said. Now, Jeff Teague says he was joking. Says everybody should have knew he was joking. And they also tried to, you didn't watch the whole thing, which that's what everybody do. If you got long form content, that's like a cheat code that creators use. Just say you're missing the context because you didn't watch the whole 2 hours. The problem is it's only an hour and 15 minutes. I watch this thing on 2X or listen to it on 2X. I can knock this thing out while I'm driving. So I listened to the whole thing and I knew immediately that was not like him trolling or him joking or something like that. So he got called out about it. He got caught out about it, and he started backtracking. So I played that whole thing for y'all. Let's get to him explaining what happened here. And y'all tell me, let me know. Let me know if you think that was a joke. Put it in the comments. If you listen on the replay, let me know. Was that a joke or was that serious? Y'all let me know. Now, this is after he's facing the backlash for what he said. I'm going to play this thing as long as we need to play it to hear him out. Very useful, all the videos I used today. We're not going to cut it short because that's the excuse that people are going to use. You cut it short. This is an 8-minute video that they put out. They titled this video, I'm talking, when I say they, I'm saying Club 5 Tony. Jeff Teague speaks on viral video saying LeBron James is on steroids. I was joking. So this is what they decided to put out as their response. We're going to let this thing play. Let's go.
Yeah, on the way in, you know what I'm saying? Some black trucks outside. I'm happy we can still podcast.
Man, listen, bro.
We was only on Clutch Sports for 2 weeks, man.
Man, they kicked me off the clutch, bro. Listen, bro, it was a joke, bro. Like, what did they miss, bro?
Hey, now, before we even get to that, who do we have on the show that was from Clutch? And they were just like, yeah, I had to double check to see if he was actually on the roster. Was that Alicia Gray?
Yeah, Alicia Gray. Yeah. Like, they like,
He's not, Alicia.
No, I'm not. I'm not on Clutch Sports. And definitely after this, I will never get another Clutch opportunity. Because y'all take everything out of context. We were literally giving LeBron praise of how dominant he was.
Yeah, y'all wasn't really watching the show. And I mean, that's why shit get clipped up, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and
go ahead.
We were saying he was so dominant.
This is your post, King. You
Nah,
right.
I'm just saying we were saying he was so dominant that, like, bro, you 280 running that fast, bro. I'm like, bro, he was on steroids, bro.
Yeah, and that was a real storyline, though. I mean,
But I was joking because if I knew that people like, how did you know he was on steroids? I didn't know. I don't know. I don't care. Because if he was and I knew, I would have told that nigga give me some.
Yeah.
I would have tapped in.
I would have been 6'3", 285 too, nigga, running like a Mack truck. Like,
if you had a recipe, there would be no club pop.
No, I wish I had. He did.
Which Bron was better?
Miami Heat Bron.
Miami Heat Bron.
Miami Heat.
I'm going this Cavs Bron because this Cavs Bron had a 3.
Man, y'all crazy. Miami Heat Bron was, he was on steroids, bro. He had to sit out. He was on steroids for real. Like legit was on steroids, bro. I'm allegedly, but like he had to sit out. But y'all remember when they told him like they
There
gonna
goes
start
the Clutch Sports allegations.
Y'all remember that though?
Nah,
When they was like, he got everybody, they started testing for HGH, and they was like, yo, and he had to sit out. Like he said his back was hurt, and he sat out for like 3 weeks, and he came back skinny. This is just, I was in the league, I remember. And he came back in, he was crazy though, bro.
Nah, that might have been the best Bron, bro. At Miami,
Bro,
was crazy.
Bro, it was right.
Hey, put that
Bro,
post in the chat,
machine,
please.
Bro, he was a real machine.
All right, so let's get back to
Jeff Teague copping the plea on that second video I played for y'all. I just wanted y'all to see the contrast of how he was speaking on it and said I was joking and all this stuff. I'll give y'all some insight on, like, when you putting together a show, I remember I used to say it more. I don't say it as much now because we're leading into where I'm going to be doing more live shows because it's just going to be more things going on. But I always said I didn't want to fall into the trap of doing too many shows because you're going to put your foot in your mouth. When you're doing a show every single day, and certain days you don't have enough new information or new subjects to speak on. So they're doing some hypothetical what championship team will win from 2009 to 2017 and breaking it down. And when you start to doing those, when you go too deep into the speculation, you get too loose and too comfortable with what you're saying. You start just saying some craziness. And I never wanted to fall into that trap because I was like, eventually I'm going to put my foot in my mouth. I'm going to say something stupid. But how many times do I want to say something stupid? Do I want to keep putting myself in a position where I can say something stupid? Or do I want to limit the amount of times I can say something stupid because I'm actually doing the research and I'm taking the time to wait and put on the show after doing the research? Now, Jeff Teague is known for telling his stories. That's how this podcast, Club 510, popped off. It popped off because Jeff Teague would tell stories of his NBA experience, and they will be very vivid stories, and you will always have people who are part of the story co-signing it, saying that's exactly what happened. Oh, Tracy McGrady saying he punched him, and Tracy McGrady, them doing a podcast together, Tracy McGrady said, yeah, I did punch him. Joe Johnson on him passing him the ball, and that's how he got playing time in Atlanta. Joe Johnson saying, yeah, that's what happened. So he would tell these vivid stories. He told the story about him shoulder checking LeBron because they just couldn't beat LeBron and he was frustrated. And then people showed it back and he went and explained and talked about the backlash he got from that. So when people go to you for storytelling, they're going to believe the stories you're telling because you have a track record of telling stories that have held up once other people have chimed in and said, yeah, that's true. So now you want to hide behind the I'm trolling thing. Now, the situation I gave that I knew that Jeff Teague would end up in this situation or a similar situation was when he went on the Joe and Jada podcast and he was trolling. He said he was trolling Fat Joe by keep calling LeBron the GOAT. And I said, playing those games, if you do one podcast a week, people will take it as a joke. But when you come on every single day and you flip-flopping and they're like, man, you don't stand on nothing, you don't believe in anything, you just, kind of dancing, jumping around with what you say and all this stuff. When it got to that situation, I'm like, these guys are going to run into issues. Look at Rashad McCants. Rashad McCants run into issues. Look at all that stuff that came out about the Kobe situation that Gilbert Arenas brought up. In the end, Gilbert was right. Kobe said exactly what Gilbert said to the T, and then everybody just act like it didn't happen, and they don't want to deal with it no more. So you got to be mindful of what you get behind these microphones and say. Just remember right after the pandemic, everybody said we need to throw away these we need to throw away these microphones because there's so many podcasts coming out. And I always think it's funny. I don't take it personal. It is what it is, But some people's they're gonna be questioning if some people should have a microphone, because when you used to going viral and saying crazy stuff, you got to be able to face that backlash and when that heat come at you. And he said his dad reached out to him and all this stuff. So it's like, you can't joke about something that has all these conspiracy theories about and expect people just to know you joking. So it was a conspiracy. It's always been conspiracy theories about LeBron based on his body and based on he's played so long and his athleticism. It's always been those conspiracy theories of people saying that he did something. And then you had a situation, he was investigated when his wife ordered something to the house. So it was always these conspiracy theories. That's not where you go take the joke. You know what I'm saying? You got to know better. And if you did research going into your podcast, you wouldn't do stuff like this. But he backtracking, moonwalking. I was joking. Oh, my dad reached out. I was like, come on, man. What we doing? What we doing? So that's going to be an L for Jeff Teague and B Hen. I got one for you too. That's going to be an L for B Hen trying to pull the oldest trick in the book by saying y'all didn't listen to get the full understanding of what was going on. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. So I'm gonna need you to hold those L's, people. Hold those L's. Let's keep this thing moving along, y'all. Let's get it moving forward. So the next story we get into. Last week, I broke down. Well, let me get to this. Last week, I broke down Cam Newton and Ryan Clark. So last week, they were going at it because Cam Newton just asked the question of Wale, does he think Jaden Daniels has the potential to have a sophomore slump? Ryan Clark took offense to that. They went back and forth. The problem is when all these guys, they want to start doing these personal attacks on people. Attack the message. When it comes to Cam Newton, I noticed this ever since he started doing his 4-for-1 show a couple years ago. The first person I remember attacking him was Kimberly Martin. Kimberly Martin attacked how he dressed. She attacked nothing of his point that he made. And it was because he said some guys are game managers and some guys are game changers. And this was to defend Dak Prescott. He called Dak Prescott a game manager. He broke it down. They started attacking him. He also said Kirk Cousins is getting that bag and Kirk Cousins didn't deserve it. Nobody said nothing about him saying that about Kirk Cousins no more. It was uproar. Oh, Cam mad because Kirk Cousins got the bag and he didn't get the bag. Played out to be true. Dak Prescott, from what we've seen since then, played out to be true. So that's why I say when people go first at the messenger and not the message, they know they can't beat the message. So they basically send it a long way. I don't like you. That's what they're doing. So that's what a lot of people do with Cam Newton. I noticed that for a while. Let me clean the screen up, y'all, so we can get this thing going good. All right, so we got that thing cleaned up. Okay, so this is Cam Newton versus Ryan Clark, part 2.
Well, Cam's wrong.
Okay,
I do
go
think
to the
that
next
Jalen
clip.
Hurts is-
That's all I wanted to hear.
I didn't tell y'all what we talking about. Cam Newton said Jalen Hurts is not a top 10 quarterback. That's what all of this is about. Cam Newton said Jalen Hurts is not a top 10 quarterback. That's the whole basis of this story. So, Stephen A., Cam is wrong. Let's go to the next one.
Cam's wrong.
That's all I wanted to hear.
All right, and then we got your boy Ryan Clark.
We have to stop allowing people to have excuses to disrespect Jalen Hurts. Cam recently said I was playing things safe, so let me cook for a second here, right? So there's different ways to look at it. Historically and presently, Jalen Hurts is the top 10 quarterback, and you're going to look at it different ways. You're going to look at talents above X's and O's, the ability to help your team win, and then to me, it's proximity to the GOAT. Let's take Cam Newton, right? What made Cam Newton great?
Okay.
He could be powerful.
Pause right there. And go to the next one.
Ryan Clark, you already see they're taking this from Jalen Hurts, and is he a top 10 QB? They're taking it to Cam Newton. They're not attacking his message. I'm going to tell y'all why. Once we go through all the people he's saying, I'm going to tell y'all why they're not attacking his message with what would easily break down what he's saying. They're not doing it. Let's go to the next one.
Dan Orlovsky.
Jalen Hurts is the quarterback you got to go through in the NFC to win the Super Bowl. You have to go through.
As we keep going, we even got.
A lot of people use this false narrative that you have to go through the quarterback. So what the NFL has done a great job of doing is they sell you on Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes. They never go against each other. Josh Allen will never intercept a pass from Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes will never intercept a pass from Josh Allen. They're going against the teams. They're going against the defenses. They're never playing against each other. They're playing against each other in the overall game, but they'll never match up against each other is a better way to put it. But the NFL has sold you on the quarterback and the quarterback's names that, oh, they're going against them. You're not going through Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts didn't tackle Patrick Mahomes 0 times. Or he tackled Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl 0 times. He sacked Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl 0 times. He caught an interception for Patrick Mahomes 0 times. It was that Philadelphia Eagles defense that dominated Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs offense. And that's the truth. But to sell it and to make it sound better, add a little seasoning to it, you say Jalen Hurts going against Patrick Mahomes. That's what they do. Let's go to the next one.
Comments. All right.
What's your comment say?
From Terrell Owens. It said, you would be judging him if he had all of that and wasn't playing well. This is a Skip Bayless type of statement with dreads. Don't be mad at Jalen because he's making great decisions. Maybe had you made the decision to jump on the ball.
Pause right there. Go.
Personal attack from T.O. Nobody is attacking his argument by saying, I got Jalen Hurts rated this. And it's a reason why they're doing that, y'all. Let's go to the next one.
Go to the next clip.
And last but not least, even yourself, a statement that you made about Jalen Hurts on this very show, 4th and 1. Does this season or Super Bowl put Jalen Hurts in the elite QB group?
I think so. Press pause right there.
So they even use Cam words against him right there. Let's see where this goes next.
This message goes to Jalen Hurts. I mean no evil intent. I have no hate, no quarrel, no nothing in regards to you, the person, or you, the NFL quarterback. I put that on everything that I love. But the point that I'm about to make here, for the point to be made, I have to unlock Petty Cam.
Not Petty Cam.
There's one more I want to add to the list of people who said something about Cam Newton's take, and that was Asante Samuel. This is the Say What Needs to Be Said with Asante Samuel. And this, everybody makes the same mistake. It's crazy. I'm always amazed when everybody falls in the same line and that line happens to be wrong. And they just signing up, just marching right up to take their L for being wrong. And we got another one.
You know what I mean? He mentioned that Say What Needs to Be Said responded to his top 10 debate, but that's all. He said we responded. That's all. But I think Cam Newton bit off more than he could chew on this one. For some reason, Cam wants to push the narrative into the NFL that some quarterbacks only have success because they are good game managers at the position. And he had the same energy for Brock Purdy, labeling Purdy as a game manager. I know y'all remember that a couple of seasons ago.
He bit off more than he could chew by labeling guys game managers. He gave a very distinct line on what a game manager was. A game manager is someone who plays within the scheme and they don't lose the game. Game changer is someone where they are the scheme. It's very easy to understand. Very easy. Based on that definition, which one is Brock Purdy? Brock Purdy is a game manager. It's simple. It's not hard. They're not going at this point. Cam messed up in this too. So I'm not saying Cam did everything right. Cam messed up in this. And I'm going to point out his mistake, and I'm going to point out everybody else's mistake as well. Let's get to it.
Take the shackles off of Petty Cam.
First and foremost, I can easily say, and out of everything that everybody said, Stephen A. Smith, he understood the assignment. The point that Cam is trying to make here, ladies and gentlemen, is let's make people debate about sports again. Because there's too many homeboys in the industry. There's too many people, the insiders, that are moved by relationships and moved by, oh, man, I can't talk bad about this person, or I can't critique his game because, man, I know that coach, or I know this particular person. Well, you're not talking about the person. You're not even talking about you guys' relationship. You're more or less talking about their performance. And that's what I was talking about. But as I keep talking.
We're going to give Cam a win right there. Because one thing that a lot of people have been fighting for is for people in the media to go back to talking about the game. And if you're going to debate something, debate the game and debate about performance. And that's where he's trying to get them back to with this take. And Stephen A. Smith understood it. Everybody else took a personal shot. That's why I told you, when I told you everybody was lining up to take those L's, they were lining up to take those L's because nobody actually accepted the challenge and in debate style went against what Cam said. Nobody. That's why I said they took L's. None of them took that challenge. I know why they didn't take the challenge, but none of them took that challenge. So let's keep going.
Unlocking Petty Cam. The next person that I will go to is Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens, I can say so much about you, and I will not, because at the end of the day, we all know that you don't have the best relationships with your quarterbacks. Me being the quarterback, I'm just going to leave it at that. Another person that will unlock Petty Cam is Gilly the Kid. Gilly, you posted me on your social story. And Peggy, I got a question to ask. Can you name me one Gilly the Kid album? Can you quote any of his music? But we know Gilly the Kid, not as a rap artist or a hip-hop artist. We know him as a podcaster. We're in the same spaces. So your unpopular pick or your popular pick or the content that you create, Gilly, is the same thing that I do as content creators. So step aside, sir.
So far, we got Cam 2. We got Gilly the Kid, T.O., 0. That's the first two he went at.
Next. Last but not least, Mr. Ryan Clark. Just for perspective purposes, can we tee up just the first 15 seconds of that clip?
Let's take Cam Newton, right? What made Cam Newton great?
Pause right
He
there.
could be powerful.
This is where people are not understanding here. You're attacking the messenger and not attacking the message.
Okay.
So since that we want to attack the messenger, Ryan Clark. Okay, let's pull up your stats. Second team All SEC. We cannot relate. Undrafted in 2002. We cannot relate. Then you have one Pro Bowl in 2011. We cannot relate. So if you want to unlock Petty Cam, and everything that Cam Newton has ever said on this 4th and 1 show has always been backed by merit and logic. But some way, shape, form, people keep attacking Cam, the person, or why he didn't jump on the fumble, why he didn't do this, or comparing and contrasting. So when I compare and contrast you guys' statistics and Dan Orlovsky, never mind. But as we keep going and we keep unlocking and keep poking the bear, and y'all want to play this game, I can play this game too. But Petty Cam, go back there.
Please.
So far, we got Cam 4. We got everybody else 0. T.O., Gilly the Kid, Dan Orlovsky, and Ryan Clark. When you attack him personally or you attack him as a football player, you got to make sure your accolades stack up to the person you attacking once you take it to that arena. To me, when you look at Cam Newton as a football player versus Gilly's not a football player, but he used Gilly's rap career because that's who he did professionally. And the other three guys, T.O. was in the same stratosphere as him. They both Hall of Famers. Ryan Clark, nope, not even close. Dan Orlovsky, no comment. Gilly the Kid is a rapper. What they're trying to do is they're trying to play big bank, take little bank. And they're walking in knowing they don't have a bigger bank. They're walking in knowing that the other person got the big joker and they got the little joker. And they're talking like they got the big joker. You know when you get to that last hand of spades and you got one more book to make and you've been holding on to that little joker and you're on the last hand and that big joker ain't been played and you counted that little joker as a book? Guess who about to get set? You with that little joker. And that is what Cam did to them. Now, he took it to the arena they want to take it to. Now, on that side, I agree with Cam. Now, on this side, this is where I think Cam is going to make his mistakes.
Let's go back there,
Because the message here is, Jalen Hurts, this has nothing to do with me hating. Eagles fans, this has nothing to do with me being bitter. This is just my thought process in evaluating quarterbacks. Now, as Petty Cam is shelved, now Logic Cam comes out.
Welcome to the show.
The reality of this list comes down to a lot of different things. And where I was going with judging quarterbacks goes off of performance. And did you know, Peggy?
What's up?
That Jalen Hurts only threw for 2,900 yards?
Yeah.
In the whole season.
Yeah, 2,903 yards.
Did you know that his former teammate at Alabama threw for 36 yards less in Tua Tagovailoa? You know the kicker in that is?
What is it?
Tua only played in 11 games. Baker Mayfield played his best football last year.
Peggy, stop flipping that sheet over like you're going to find some answers over there. Ain't no answers over there. you flipping the sheet over. Ain't no answers there.
Yeah, I was going to ask because I don't know why you put Baker over him.
And if we want to argue, the point of why Cam did not put Jalen Hurts in his top 10, it's just because I've had this conversation with Jalen Hurts face to face. And this is the facts. This is the truth. It's unfortunate that in his current situation, he will not really be able to showcase what he's able to fully do on a consistent basis at the quarterback position because of the skill set that's around him.
So I think that's the clearest that Cam made it. And I think that's a direct correlation to the Kobe and Shaq debates where everybody discredits Kobe's first rings who are against Kobe because they say he was the backup. He was not the backup. He was a sidekick. He wasn't the 1A like Shaq was. That's this kind of similar situation that Jalen Hurts is in. Jalen Hurts produced when it was time to produce, but when the Chiefs defensive coordinator come out and says we're not going to let Saquon beat us in the Super Bowl, we're going to force Jalen to beat us. That means that first person they were going after the stop was Saquon Barkley. So, to me, this is very clear. I understand exactly what Cam is saying. I don't believe this is a hard thing to understand. This is very clear, very simple. People miss this, but I think this is clear.
That's facts. And you talk about Baker Mayfield, all right? Baker Mayfield threw for 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions. Did you hear that? Are we talking? See, this is the thing that people have a fascination with. They always judge what they used to know about you, not what you currently are. When people always say, hey, Cam, you're hating on Jalen Hurts. No, I don't need to hate on Jalen Hurts. And the common thing that we always hear of, I've heard in this past week is, Cam, you're just mad that Jalen has what you don't. And Petty Cam keeps creeping back up to the microphone and he can say, should I go down a list of things that I have that Jalen doesn't?
Not only just Jalen, a lot of other people.
That's the other side to it. So I'm gonna pause Cam just for a second. When you in this podcast thing, you in this live streaming streets, the easiest thing that people label you as a hater, and they say you don't know. So oh man, you don't know basketball, you don't know football. You can clearly break down a situation, the circumstances, articulate it very clear. And, oh man, you don't know. I think that what people not should. I always catch myself when I want to say what people should say. I think what people want to say is, I don't agree with you. If you don't agree with me, say you don't agree with me. Y'all hear me. If you've been listening to me for any time, if I don't agree with something, I say I don't agree with that. You won't hear me dance around and, you don't know ball, bro. You'll never hear me say that. You don't. I don't use those things. That's not the way I speak about situations and subjects, because it's not necessary. I can articulate my points, and I also can break down your points, which will show that I actually know what I'm talking about. People, when they take their easy route, call you a hater or say you don't know, I just leave it alone. That's low-hanging fruit of a response. And all I think is, thank you for contributing to me being in the algorithm by commenting. That's what I think about when people do and say those things. So I want to get to where he's actually going to say his list, because this is where his mistake is. Let's see. I think his list is actually going to pop up on the screen, so that's what I'm trying to dig through and find it. Dang, where is it?
But hear this out, and I said it time and time again, and I will double down on it. Jalen Hurts does not need to play elite football for the Eagles to win. How can we stop these guys? Unfortunately, when you're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, he's not shown that he can do it.
Mm-hmm.
His team situation, when I'm going down my list of Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford, Josh Allen, C.J. Stroud, Jaden Daniels, those guys are primarily a quarterback-centric system.
Yeah.
That's not Philly, bro.
Yeah.
And do you blame Jalen for that? No.
That's crazy. That's real. Because the same argument they having with you now about this top 10 was not the same argument about Saquon being MVP versus Jalen. It was never even an argument.
And leave my career out of it, please.
No.
Because I'm definitely going to Google your career, whoever it is citing, what you're saying. Let's keep this about the point here. The point is, Jalen Hurts I am saying he does have top-tier talent capabilities. But because he's in a situation, a system, a team, an organization that does not require him to showcase that all the time, therefore, he has to be judged accountable to what film he puts out.
Well said.
So when you go around the league and when you go around many different lists, Cam is just extremely good at what.
Well, that's a walk-off home run.
That was 2 years ago.
We ain't played no more games since.
No. In the category of LeBron.
He's ranked 20th in the NFL in yards as a quarterback.
Come on, bro.
Passing
Those aren't elite numbers.
All right, cool.
That doesn't mean he cannot play elite.
All right, cool. And what litmus test are you grading?
This is Cam getting some pushback.
Individual performance, not team performance.
Thank you.
We'll just say, yep.
Super Bowl, that's a team award.
Okay.
And then somebody will say, MVP of the Super Bowl. Okay, cool.
So to me, Cam, I couldn't find a spot, but there's a spot in here where he is going to say some things about who or why he ranks guys a certain way. I'm trying to see if they have it listed or don't have it listed nowhere. So there's a part where he's going to say who and why he has guys listed, how they're rated. And then once he gives his actual list, he is going to go in and it's going to contradict some of the people that he put on his list and his reasons why. So that's why I think Cam messes up. The second place I think Cam messes up is nobody came back with a list to go against what Cam said. Because if Cam this is another point. Cam messed up 3 times. The first time Cam messed up is he contradicted himself some. Second time he messed up was he should have said he's not top 5. If you say he's not top 5, none of these guys are arguing. And I'm going to prove to you with my list on why nobody will argue if he said he's not top 5. And that's also the reason why I believe nobody came back and said, Jalen Hurts is my number 1 quarterback. Jalen Hurts is my number 2 quarterback. Nobody even came back and said he's a top 3 quarterback. This is where you get lost in the argument. Where people are lost in the argument is Cam is saying he has a skill to do it. He's not required to do it. And everybody that comes back, they use the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl MVP as if you don't have to win games in the regular season to even get to the playoffs. An easier way to make this argument on who is the top 10 QBs is say you're starting a franchise, you got the number 1 overall pick, who you drafting that QB to start your team. That's an easier way that's an easier way that you can break down. Shout out to you, Adam. That's an easier way that you can break down this argument. You can break down this argument by saying, okay, who would I draft first? And that's what I did. I went and I said, okay, if I was starting a team, how would I draft? How would I draft for my QBs? So I made it. So let's see. Yeah, I got my points on. Make sure I missed nothing. So these are my top 10 QBs. Coming at number 10, I got CJ Stroud. Number 9, I got Matthew Stafford. Number 8, I got Baker Mayfield. Number 7, I got Jaden Daniels. Number 6, I got Jalen Hurts. Number 5, I got Jared Goff. Number 4, I got Pat Mahomes. Number 3, I got Joe Burrow. Number 2, I got Josh Allen. Number 1, I got Lamar. And I broke this down based on if I was starting a team and I had to draft a QB, how I would pick them based on where I picked in the top 10. That's the easy way to understand how I broke it down. And the reason why nobody came back and actually made a list, because none of those guys who spoke would take Jalen Hurts. They would take him over Lamar. None of them would take him over Josh Allen. None of them would take him over Joe Burrow. None of them would take him over Pat Mahomes. The argument is when you get to number 5. When you get to number 5, that's where you can argue and say, would you take Jared Goff or Jalen Hurts? I know this is where I'm going to receive the most pushback, and I understand it. And this was a toss-up for me where I was like, man, is he in? Who would I take and all this stuff? And that's where it gets tough. But saying he's outside of the top 10, that's where Cam messed up. So y'all see how Cam messed up? Putting him outside the top 10, more so leaning on stats, not necessarily looking at turnovers. I could have had Baker higher, but he had too many interceptions. A lot of these guys had double-digit interceptions, but they had double-digit interceptions and in that 20 to 22 range of touchdowns. So it started to get really close. As you get 6 through 10, the only outlier with touchdowns is Baker Mayfield. Everybody else stuff is really close, and their interceptions are really close too. So that's where it gets tough, and it's an actual argument. But the real question is, who has Jalen Hurts in their top 5? And that's why I say if they responded, they actually would agree with more. They would agree with Cam more than they disagree with Cam. Now they don't agree. Nobody put Jalen Hurts top 3, and they didn't come out and give a list because I don't think they would put him top 5. And that's where the waters get murky, and that's where situations that's where it get kind of iffy, where you're like, do we put him here? Do we not put him here? So I have a podcast coming out. Of course, you know the name of my stuff is OffThaRecordDee, but we're going to drop the title today for y'all. I've been teasing at the title. Podcast is going to be dropping really soon on anywhere you listen to podcasts. The title of the podcast is Eliminate the Gray. Now, what made me think of this title was, actually, I'm going to look it up. It was a Jason Lloyd argument. Actually, let me go here. It was a Jason Lloyd argument, and he was on UCSS, and he keeps dancing all around if Kenny Pickett's going to be the starter and all these things. Whoops. Okay. I don't know what happened there. So he was just dancing around. Oh man, Kenny Pickett's going to be the starter. He's not going to be the starter. And I was like, man, I don't like when guys are just kind of dancing around these situations and not kind of pick a side. You know, believe in something or say you agree with something, but you dancing all around it. Might be here.
What?
Yeah.
He might not make.
Let me pause that. Okay. So that's what even made me come up with the situation. But the title's going to be Eliminate the Gray. It's going to be anywhere you can find podcasts. You're going to be able to search Eliminate the Gray, or you're going to be able to search OffThaRecordDee. Remember, the is THA and that all one word. So you can be able to find a podcast. But I just kept seeing that people were not willing to go out there and stand on what they believe and actually say it. We saw Asante Samuel, he didn't make a top 10. We saw Dan Orlovsky not make a top 10. We saw T.O. not make a top 10. We saw Ryan Clark not make a top 10. What people did was they all just called out his take. They never countered his take with a top 10 because they don't really stand on what they're saying. They more so are disagreeing with Cam, but not putting themselves out there because they're not going to have Jalen Hurts ranked in the top 3 after they were just caping for Jalen Hurts to saying he in the top 10, but I ain't going to say where he's at. So Cam is putting himself out there, trying to establish and put a situation where you can debate, and nobody else is coming to the situation with a debate argument. And I say, you know what? When it's situations and it's hot topics and I speak on them, I'm just going to give you how I feel on it and I'm going to stand on it. Like I said last week, you got to stand on something. And I stand on my top 10 list. You can argue with me. We can even go back and forth about it, but I'm going to put it out there. None of those guys are willing to put it out there, and that's what they do. A lot of times in the media, they dance around subjects and never put themselves out there. And I noticed this probably 2 years ago when I was thinking about starting a podcast. I definitely saw it even more a year ago when I actually started live streaming and stuff like that, especially about the Browns. I really started to see it, and this is going to be, I hope this is the right clip from Jason Lloyd. Jason Lloyd is another one of the dance around the Kenny Pickett's going to be a starter thing. Excuse me. I think it's in here. I'm just getting it set for y'all on the back end. This is when Zach Jackson was on UCSS. Let's get this down. Let's get this up. Y'all can see now. There you go. So I'm going to find the spot as we go, so bear with me. But this is a perfect example of why I actually decided on the name Eliminate the Gray for the podcast. Here we go.
The one that's played in this offense too,
Yes.
which is part of him being head and shoulders above these guys. So August 5th, August 7th, whatever, the day of after the Carolina, let's see where they are. But right now, to me, it's Joe, and then you can make the case for anybody else in any other order.
I joked on the show after Dustin's wedding that Zach yelled at me at Dustin's wedding and said, "Jason, Kenny Pickett is not going to be the starter." Knock it off. And I'm like, I think he is. I'm not like rooting for Kenny Pickett. I don't think he's the savior.
G. Bush,
just knowing, it's not that. It's just knowing how they think. I think that's where they're going to go. I don't think it's going to work necessarily, but I just think that's what. But anyway, so yesterday we're staying at practice. At the end of practice, I had this brilliant thought in my head, and I looked at Zach and said, "Hey, don't hit me." And he gave me the look like, "What are you going to say now?" And I said, "Is there any chance they would carry Joe on the practice squad to carry if he says no? You know what I mean? Like if he tells."
So I was actually able to find that clip quicker than I thought. So you see there, he's still dancing around. Kenny Pickett's going to be the starter, and he's saying, that's not what I would do, but I think that's what they're going to do. So he has said that if it was up to him, he would start Joe Flacco. Then on the other side, he's saying, but I think the Browns are going to start Kenny Pickett. Now, he's playing that delicate dance of not really committing, and he's basically, it's supposedly a 4-quarterback competition. He's attaching his name to 2 quarterbacks. So he has a more likelihood of being right than him just standing on 1 quarterback. A long time ago, I said I think Joe Flacco is going to be the starter for game 1. I just stood on that 1 quarterback. But what he's doing is he's playing both sides of it. He's saying, I would do this. I think they're going to do this. And you only got to say that one time. but he is attaching his name to both so he can somehow come out clean and be right. That is dancing in the gray area. And now that I'm showing you how people dance in the gray, you're going to start to see it. You're going to start to see it so much more. Cam Newton did not dance in the gray. Cam Newton said, I believe Jalen Hurts is not top 10. These are my reasons. And he put it out there. That's not, everybody scrutinized him for putting it out there. And then all of them danced in the gray and none of them put out there where they actually have him ranked in the top 10. That's a tactic that a lot of these guys in the media play. And once I start to see it, I couldn't unsee it. And it's the same way. So something else that we heard so much, this draft process, what has opened my eyes to is these guys don't watch any college football the whole year, and then they all become draft experts so they can talk about the draft. But then when they actually have to attach their name to a guy, they all say, but they pay somebody to do this. And the people who get paid to do this, they actually look at them as if the whole year they can't be watching who they have as the top guys in the draft. It's crazy. So I just keep seeing how they dance. They dance in that area. But see, me, I have a long memory. A lot of people have short memory. They're going to forget everything that happened leading up to this draft. I'm not going to forget it because I was covering it and I was documenting it and I have video evidence of what people were saying in real time. So to drop something else out there for y'all, I found a kind of a consensus list. I kind of found a consensus list of the quarterbacks that they were saying are actually in the top 5 who are still in college. And I'm going to look at those top 5 quarterbacks and I'm going to critique them week to week. And we're going to have a video track record of how people are actually speaking about them in the moment. Because one thing I noticed about college football, it's very hard to go back and find in the moment when people were talking about these guys and how they spoke on them. So I say, you know what? I'm not going to let y'all pull a fast one on me. We're going to cover them real time. We're going to look at them real time and see how people actually cover them. See how people actually talk about them. So that's something else we're going to do. We're eliminating all the gray area that everybody in sports media like to play in. So we're going to do that with the college quarterbacks. We even going to look at some of the teams based on their quarterback decisions and see how things go this season. So we're going to definitely look at it. I'm not sure what's happening on my end. It looks like I'm losing. My frame rate has dropped for some reason. I'm still recording on my end, but since this is happening, this is the end of the show. We made it through. Another great show. Remember, Eliminate the Gray podcast, releasing soon on all platforms where you listen to your podcast. Off the Record D on all platforms. Remember the is THA. Like, comment, subscribe. Remember, 95% of the people who watch my videos on YouTube are not subscribers. So if you are watching my videos in the shadows, go ahead, subscribe. Let's get that number to at least 20% in the next couple weeks, because it seems like y'all are getting the value and the views are up. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch y'all next week. Peace. Oops.